Work smarter, not harder. Bullshit. Anyone who thinks those are mutually exclusive has the capacity for neither. We need to get our boots dirty. You see, I'm on a quest to find Football Manager's Moneyball metric. The Oakland Athletics had on-base percentage, but what is the footballing equivalent? With USL Dunkirk, I created excitement factor to measure entertainment, and we did pretty well, taking them from mid-table Ligue 2 to fighting PSG for league titles in 5 years. Now it's time to explore a different idea. Can we build a round graph? Can we put a number to it? And will it bring us success? Of course, I should probably start by defining hard work, in a footballing sense. For me, I'm talking about physical output. Players that put themselves about. Players that cover every blade of grass. Players that keep running from the first minute to the very last. And there's science to back this up, courtesy of the Football Observatory. Teams that covered more distance sprinting than their opponents were more likely to win. It looks like we already have some metrics to consider.
We're going for distance, we're going for speed. I'm the wrong person till we bleed. We're racing, no pacing, we're chasing the ball. We're fighting and running and starting a ball. We're going for distance.
Well, that spoils the team reveal. I mean, so did the thumbnail really. Anyway, why Werder Bremen? I decided to take a look at some real life statistics, and thankfully the Bundesliga just so happens to record distance covered at a team level. There they are, second from bottom. Now, I've always held a soft spot for Bremen. It all goes back to the noughties and the Thomas Schaaf era. So let's take a look at their squad back in FM 2009 to find our manager character.
Is in Diego, Sebastian Prudl, Petri Pessonen or Clemens Friends. No, it is Torsten, my favourite friend.
Okay, he looks more like long-haired Wayne Rooney, but I tried my best. Right, we've got the concept, we've got the club, we've got the manager. Let's check out the squad. First things first, we've got no performance data, so I'm going to focus in on just 2 attributes to get us through this first season. Work rate, obviously, and stamina. So let's take a look through our squad with that in mind. In goal, Backhouse and Hein look pretty similar. Backhouse is homegrown, Hein is on loan, so obviously I'm going to prioritise our guy. Centre-back looks promising in terms of work rate, worrying in terms of injuries. Piper and Werder out for quite a while. Friedel looks to be our main man, and his versatility means he's likely to be used at left-back quite a bit. That's because our only other left-back is out too. Olivier de Man looks like he'll be great once he returns from injury. We've got a surfeit of right-backs who all are much of a muchness. We had midfielders coming out the wazoo. Fennerleinen looks like a cracking player, a proper defensive midfielder. Cameron Puertas is pretty handy too. I like the plays 1-2 trait here. Jens Stay is the star though. A sea of cyan and his tendency to get into opposition area fits the dynamic approach we're looking for. We're a little thin on the wings, with Marco Gruhl the standout here, and he strikes me as more of a striker to be honest. Victor Boniface has the star power, but not the attributes we're looking for, which means Kiki Top might be the player to lead our line. Homegrown and mouldable. If I arrange these by combined total for the key attributes, it looks something a little like this. What stands out to me is that we have an industrious midfielder, and that bodes well. Not least because I've started with the transfer window disabled, so we have to make do with the squad we have. Tactically, this was more of a challenge than I expected. You see, there's quite a big conflict. Here's a couple more charts from that same study as earlier. Players cover more distance without possession. That's not new information, it's quite well known. But it suggests that if we want to be the most hardworking team, we need to be defensive. Which doesn't sit right with me. If this is going to be our defining quality, we need to be beating teams on our terms. They need to work hard. We'll just work harder. So I'm looking for us to build from deep. I want us to play with urgency. I want us to stretch the opposition horizontally, but also vertically. I want the ball in play as much as possible. When we don't have possession, I don't want the opposition to settle. It's an all-out blitz of a press. But when we need to defend our own half, everyone needs to get involved. So that means strikerless, out of possession. That's an attacking midfielder as the outlet, slightly more defensive option than a striker. That's tracking wingers who will get up and down the flank. That's pressing midfielders who will step up in opposition build-up and harass in our own half. All of those front five are instructed to close down more. I bet you'll never guess our in possession formation. If you said squash 4-4-2 diamond, fair play. The key here is that almost everyone has some kind of dynamic movement involved. The wing-backs get forward and provide the width. The half-back drops into the defensive line, allowing the ball-playing defenders to step forward and carry the ball when needed. The wide central midfielders shuttle from side to side. The withdrawn advanced playmaker can stay deep during build-up, but pushes forward in the final third. The strike partnerships is one dropping, the other pushing the backline. We should without doubt cover a lot of ground. Will we be good, however? I suppose we'll find out. First, let's make some predictions. Now the board wants us to finish in the top half. In fact, the 5-year plan seems pretty reasonable. Top half, Conference League, Europa League, Europa League. A reasonable progression path. The media are less optimistic, however, expecting us to finish mid-table, just as likely to finish top half as we are to fight for relegation. I think they're both wrong. We're better than that and should be fighting for Europe from the off. In fact, my 5-year plan looks a little different. Something like this. Season 1, we qualify for the Conference League. Season 2, we break into the top 4. Season 3, we start to challenge for the title, and Season 4, we win the league for the first time in 25 years. And Season 5, we successfully defend it. Anything short of that is failure. I'm going to regret saying that now, aren't I? Right, here's how it works. I holiday between games, pick the starting lineup, hit instant result, then rest all the starters for an additional day. Repeat ad nauseum. And here's how we got on. We opened the season in Frankfurt, where Mio Backhaus was the star in a 0-0 draw. Our home opener against Leverkusen saw Romano Schmidt score the pick of the goals as we registered our first win. It was a bit scrappy against Mönchengladbach, Boniface scrambling in the winner. Before Cameron Puerta scored an absolute peach of a curler in a 1-1 draw with Freiburg. Our first defeat came at the Allianz Arena as Luis Diaz scored the most Luis Diaz goal I've ever seen. We bounced back against St. Pauli, our big men combining up top. Against Heidenheim it was a struggle, but we just about did enough. Gruhl with the winner. And it took the dancing feet of Jens Stay to unlock Union Berlin. 8 games in and things are going well. We are third. I mean, we're already out of the DFB Pokal, but otherwise a positive start. An Amiri penalty was the difference as we fell to Mainz. We had to rely on a set piece of our own to get the spoils against Wolfsburg, Stark with the header, and a refereeing decision was the centre of attention in an otherwise dull 0-0 with RB Leipzig. Back to set pieces, and Boniface's near post header gave us victory over Köln. We can score from open play, honest, we just choose not to most of the time. Now, for a save based on outrunning the opponent, there's something kind of embarrassing about our effort, or lack thereof, as Furyk waltzed through our defence. We bounced back though, Olivier Deman scoring on his return from injury. At the winter break, we're up to second. Somehow we are the second top scorers with only 21 goals. Piper has returned from injury, but with his contract due to expire, he's agreed a summer transfer to Brentford, so we might as well sell him now for a little bit of cash. Our return to action saw us comfortably dispatch Hoffenheim, Schmidt with a lovely finish. Dortmund immediately brought us back down to earth, Eberwein with the winner. Then some truly delightful goals. Patrice Kovac's ball over the top of Frankfurt's defence was inch perfect. Against Leverkusen, Cameron Puertas was feeling saucy. Even the opposition were at it, as the Austin Rivers of soccer pulled off a worldie. That started a mini slump, as Freiburg downed us 2-1. Bayern completed a double, courtesy of Stanisic's goal-mouth scramble. Once more, St. Pauli, ever the generous, helped us back into form, which we followed with a rare goal for Top in an unconvincing win over Heidenheim. It didn't last long. For the second time this season, we were run through with absolutely zero resistance in a defeat to Union Berlin. We got back on track against Mainz, Boniface scoring in a comfortable 3-0 win before a trip to Wolfsburg, where Mio Backhaus helped us keep them at bay. With 2 months remaining, we were back down to third. There's a gap above us and below. It looks like we're probably secure where we are. Leipzig proved they are much better with all 11 players on the pitch, Odrego with the winner. And so we had to resort to set pieces. Boniface thumping in the winner against Köln, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Same combination, same outcome. Now football karma is real. Our penance for corner nonsense was a Friedel own goal. We can still score nice goals though. Schmidt's lovely ball over the top, Gruhl's delightful volley. That would be our last win. Adam Hlozek earned Hoffenheim a draw in injury time, before we hosted Dortmund, where we fell to a Jurassic brace. That opened a door for Stuttgart. If they win by 2 goals, they will pip us to third. Just moments after Jurassic restored Dortmund's lead against us, Stuttgart turned the game around. Undav feeding El Kanous twice in 2 minutes to put them on the brink. Only for Burkhardt to equalise. The third place it is, a phenomenal first season, massively outperforming even my own expectations. There is just one stat I care about, high intensity sprints, and we were top, the rest of the league literally trailing in our dust. Well, I also want to know distance covered, but that's not easily available. I'll need to calculate that myself, and that's for the next episode, as I'll take a proper dive into the numbers as we prepare for the transfer market. What we can do, however, is check out our squad. Isaac Schmidt was the standout, nearly 15 kilometres and 30 sprints per 90. I expect our fullbacks to lead the way here, but Schmidt was miles, or should that be kilometres, ahead of the rest. Marco Gruhl's numbers were equally impressive. He covered a lot of ground as a striker. He only scored 9 goals, but he ran a lot, and that's all that matters. Our midfielders were all much of a muchness. A few goals, a few assists, but no standouts. All covering about 12 kilometres per game, it's going to be tricky to separate them. Finally, a word on Marco Friedel. He led the team with 9 assists. His physical output is less than the other fullbacks because he also played quite a bit at centre-back, but was an absolute star. It does make me wonder, do we move to a back 3 to help Friedel shine? And do we keep any of our low knees permanently? I suppose those are questions for the next episode. See you then. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a like or maybe even subscribing. Your support is greatly appreciated. And if you want a little more, you can become a YouTube member or Patreon, which includes director's cut versions of videos. For this episode, I take a closer look at some of the world building elements, how I incorporate training, staffing and scouting around our central theme, and explore what happened around the leagues.